All right, guys. Sorry about the end of that death team video. I forgot to do the zero cost legendary. Won't do that again. Didn't have really time to try to remake all of these different videos, so we're gonna get really quick into the next review of the Chaos Legion cards. And right now we're going over the life team. So let's go ahead and get into that. This one is a lot different than the first one of the death team that I've done, and it definitely has a lot of really comparable cards to their original sets, and so that's kind of interesting. But they also have some very cool new things, and they have kind of a twist on the different ideas of what they've introduced in this team. In this set, and kind of one of the things you'll notice is like every team gets a 1-cost chicken that does something a little bit different. Everybody gets a 0-cost legendary that does a different status debuff. Everybody gets one monster that does the triple damage on different teams, but they're all going to be slightly different. Every team seems to get a monster with scatter shot, which is kind of cool, and lets you team that up with a scatter shot dragon. So these are kind of themes that we'll see throughout all of the teams, and you should just be aware of that the real flavor of each one of those cards is going to be a little different, and they're going to apply a little differently to when we can use them, right? And some of the things you're going to notice is because some of these cards are like old cards, for players that have both and play in the modern format, there's going to be some very interesting teams that come out of here. But also it's going to give some of us that don't have some of those, including myself, some of those alpha cards at that max level, a chance to get a very similar functioning card at a very high level. And I'll go over that with you as we go through this. Okay, Dr. Blight's chilling over here again because he's just like, I'm that cool. I always go in the top left corner. But we'll go ahead and look at their chicken. So their new chicken here is the Gargoyle Scraper. 2 attack, 3 speed, 3 health. And it has a void. So that's kind of interesting. 1-cost monster. I don't know. Would you really run that tank? I mean, I guess he costs 1. You throw him in the front, like in front of somebody like this with the reach. And you just go, maybe he absorbs some magic damage. It takes a little while for them to kill him. Also, I can put some armor on top of him probably. Maybe not quite as easy in the new set because the summoner doesn't give armor, but it is one of those things that are pretty cool. Actually, let me make sure the summoner, he gives range now. We'll go ahead and talk about that. They're getting a 4-cost summoner that gives range. This is obviously very cool, and that makes any of the neutral cards who have range, like this 2-cost that would then be doing 4, really, really good for the team. Now, unfortunately, in the new, and also obviously it gets the Gem Meteor really good, and we'll just combo the Gem Meteor with this summoner with also, we'll skip around a little here, their Scattershot Archer here. So he's a 5-cost that does 4. So if you got, you use that summoner, you got a 5-cost doing 4, plus 1 is 5. You have this one, so you have 2 5-cost guys doing 5 Scattershot damage to the other team. That would be a fun match to watch, right? All right, let's get my face off the board now that we're going to start to get more into the comparing. Okay, so as we go here, you're gonna see the Harvester here. And this card obviously is very close to the Silver Shield Warrior. They're both the same cost. They're both reach monsters. But this, man, talk about an upgrade. You get Oppress, and you do, well, let me double check. I never maxed him out. Life is my weakest level team, guys. Shh. So they do the same amount of damage, but this card is faster and has Oppress. I would trade 2 HP for 2 speed and Oppress. So this card is just bye-bye Silver Shield Warrior. Won't use you anymore. Gonna get a maxed out one of these. The Lich is a updated Feral Spirit, which I never maxed out my Feral Spirit, so now I can actually match one out. But it has Life Leech, which is pretty wild, because when you look at the old Feral Spirit, the one difference is at a top level, it's a 6 speed, so much faster. So that's pretty important to make sure that you land those hits, and you can get some dodges if you put him in your back row and they're sneaking back at him. It's a very interesting thing to see sometimes his get misses. But, Life Leech, same attack, a little bit slower. Definitely something you can work with, especially if you don't have a maxed out Feral Spirit. But people who get both maxed out, this is my point. That's going to be an interesting thing to add into the sneak team for the life team, which is already pretty good because of the double attacking Silver Shield Assassin, right? So that's pretty cool. And she's going to be available in both sets, so that combo is still going to be able to be played, just now with him instead of Feral Spirit in the modern format. We go here and we look at these 2 tank options here. You have a nice 3-cost tank with Magic Reflect and 3-cost 6 HP and 5 armor. Also throw Blind into the mix. He's only 3 speed, so unless you have some other speed buffs, maybe Blind won't be as effective. And he is a tank, so he's going to be in the front row. But armor, kind of low HP if he was going to get hit by big magic, but at least he'll bounce it back at them. Obviously designed for lower mana matches. Fun card. I don't see any problem with that. He'd also be an interesting one to throw on a board when melee can attack from anywhere in maybe the medium mana matches. We have a Chaos Knight. This one is actually kind of new. He kind of looks, I don't know, he's pretty cool. Obviously, he looks a little bit like the Failed Summoner, but with like more armor, life, damage, because he costs 1 more mana. But that's the closest thing I can relate him to. The Chaos Knight is your new upgraded Silver Shield Knight. So there's your Inspire to help any of those teams that are going to be bouncing around. But unlike the max level, let's go ahead and show the max level Chaos Knight, who becomes Trample. She has a giant killer ability and is shielded with armor and decent HP. This means in matches where magic won't be a big problem, or where you do a lot of silencing so magic can't hit that hard, this would be a very interesting play. The question is, does the life team have the ability to silence? We'll get to that as we go through these cards. So the Celestial Harpy is coming in, and this one is just kind of a new monster that gives you an ability to actually run an opportunity team on life. They already had the Cave Slug. Now you add in the Celestial Harpy, and if you're playing neutral cards, you can also put in, where is he? The Parasitic Growth. So now you can run 3 opportunity monsters on life pretty easily. That's a nice thing to see. They already, it was kind of hard to really use Cave Slug all alone sometimes, or Cave Slug with Prismatic Growth, because they're both slow. Now you get one that's a little bit faster, which is nice, and only 2 mana. Anytime you got 2 mana for 3 attack, I mean, this guy is looking at the current king of the fire team there and going, ha ha ha, I'm only 2 cost. So we got the Time Mage here. This is kind of an interesting card. It's a little bit similar to the Defender of Truth, but instead of protecting and doing magic damage, you're rusting and doing magic damage. And then you tie onto that you also have a slow ability. Defender of Truth, I do not think gets a second ability. So yeah, when you compare these 2 cards for the same cost, this one has an armor and an additional HP, so more, and protects, so that makes that 3 armor on the board. This one doesn't have that armor, but would take the armor away from the other team possibly. I don't know which one would be better. I actually think that those cards are very close, and it will be situational as far as which one you'd prefer to play. You got a Scatter Shot with Snare. That's going to be pretty cool. Could be snaring people all over the different board. He hits very, very hard for cost, 5 to 4. He's got good HP still. He's got armor, and 3 speed is not bad. I will say, though, 3 speed archers who are slowed can miss a lot, so that's possibly a problem with this guy. Then we go ahead and we get into the Pellicor, what is that? The Arbalist. Double strike, flying, 3 damage, 3 for 6 on a double strike is really cool, especially because we have to remember the Summoner gives both of these persons 1 more attack, so really you could be doing 8 attack a turn if you're hitting. Obviously you're going to want to get that speed maybe a little bit up. Just to be completely honest, same thing, 3 speed people, they have the possibility to be slowed, so you got to protect yourself from that, because if they're down to like 1 speed and you're double striking but you're just missing all the time, you're not going to have a good time. Temporal Master is their version of the attack every other turn. You'll see what they did this time is they made it a 3-cost monster that does 2, that would do 6 when it attacks, so 3 cost does 6 when it attacks, 6 magic damage. And has a stun. That's an interesting card. I don't know if I love a stun on a card that doesn't always get to attack, but man, talk about a devastating blow. If you hit them that hard and stun the card, it's going to be pretty cool. The low cost lets you get him in. He would definitely, maybe some people would say, is close to the Divine Sorceress, who does 3 for 3. More magic damage, but doesn't have that ability to actually do the triple damage. So in 2 turns he'll deal 6, in 2 turns she'll do 6. but he only attacks once, she attacks twice. So you can kind of see how those cards, they're similar but different. This is also to show that these cards, while they might look amazing, they do kind of balance out to the older cards if you really compare them. The Prismologist is a very important card for the team, but in 8 cost is kind of interesting because you're going to want a silence for either of these two tanks. Your first silence that comes on the new cards is at a level 8 cost, or an 8 cost card. So that might be hard to get on the board if you're trying to use this 3 cost guy. Just something to notice there. If we look at the Untamed cards over here, does anybody else on the team have a silence? Again, you have Warrior Peace, but this card costs 7. I don't think they have a lot of low cost. Oh, well, yeah, but Crystal Werewolf is going away, and he's a tank, so this tank isn't going to affect the other tank, obviously, because he's a great card for the first position, too. So, yeah, they're missing really a silence. Now, obviously, there's a great neutral card here, the Elven Mystic, that can be used on anybody's team. So that would be one. Maybe you can get him on the board to at least help these tanks a little bit. On a higher mono match, I guess you can try the Chaos Knight with this card, but you might want to lean towards one of the other tanks on the team. You've got the... where is... You got the Shield Bearer, obviously. I think he's probably going to be the number 1 tank for them in the new set. I don't really know anybody else that compares unless you want to use the Chaos Knight to get the Inspire because you're going maybe a sneak team behind him, but then it doesn't make a lot of sense to have this card on the board. That's where I think that Elven Mystic comes in pretty handy there. Getting to Dax here, you have a nice low-cost card. 2 for 2 mana is nice. The 5 HP is very strong. He has Affliction and Amplify, so this can be comboed in with any of the tanks that have any kind of Return Fire or Thorns. So this is a nice card to have on the team. 2-cost cards can always be fed in. I think this is one that definitely will be worth getting up there in levels, just because when you get to drop this on the board, you might think, oh, I just fit him in. He's not going to do that much. You think he lands a Code of Fiction. You're playing him maybe with a card that's dealing damage back. They do more damage back. You win. You go, wow, that was really cool. This card is kind of perplexing to me. But then I thought about what it's meant to replace, and I'm like, I know what it's meant to replace. The card I don't have anymore. And that is, where is she? She should be here on beta. Maybe I do have one of her. Oh, no, yeah, I have one level 1. Maybe I should sell that, huh? The Angel of Light. So Angel of Light was a 5 cost that has Resurrect, and it will go ahead and go to stats, and you can see that it has Inspire, Heal, Flying, and Resurrect, and this is Tank Heal. For 8 mana. So this one's 7, so it costs 2 more. You only get 5 health, but this card actually does damage back. And instead of a healer, it's a repair with a resurrect and an immunity effect on it. So that's kind of nice for those poison matches. It speeds up the team. So even though it's 1 speed, it will always be probably 2 speed unless, it gets slowed down by the other side. I did say controlling speed with these archers is going to be important, so that card is pretty helpful for them. And this creates one of the most ridiculous lineups I can imagine in the modern format, where you can run an Angel of Light for Resurrect. You can do this one for Resurrect. You can do this one for Resurrect, this one for Resurrect. So they can run 4 Resurrects in 3 spots for about 22 mana. So if you're in like a 30 mana match, and this guy's a good mage on the background, this one does damage. If they have this one leveled, it's healing. They're getting triaged in the back, and then they put Shield Bearer in the front. So you're gonna have to kill Shield Bearer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Given if you have a lot of magic on the other side, you might be able to kill him 5 times pretty easily. But that is pretty wild to imagine that they can have 4 Resurrects on the life team now by playing this one, and the new one over here. Now, obviously, that's only going to come into play in some high mana matches, but man, that's going to be wild. I know already when I run into these 3 on the board, it's really annoying, and it can be very, very defeating. Now they can have another one. Given you have to, maybe they won't be able to play those ones so actually I'm kind of excited to be able to play this card, and this card, and then go to some attackers and some other cards to deal damage, knowing that I can do at least the similar effect to what they were doing with the Angel of Light, Chancius and the High Priest. So I actually end up liking this card at first. When you see only 2 damage for 7, you're like, I don't know about that. But it's really, really designed to be kind of a Angel of Light for the Shield Bearer, right? Because it has the Repair. It still has the Resurrect. It speeds him up because he's really slow. It doesn't heal him, but they have other healers on this team, so you don't need to worry about that so much. Now we'll talk about their 0-cost legendary card. Soul Fiend is just, he's another cool card. 0 cost, he has an armor, so you can put him in the back row. He'll take 2 sneak attacks to kill because the armor will block 1. He with 2 life and 2 mana, he's going to die pretty quickly. But on the same sense of that, he's going to be demoralizing people. And if he gets to keep that 1 armor on him, if you're playing him on the board, like, behind her, she might be repairing his armor. And then that would be kind of an interesting thing to see. Also, on a team that has a obvious tank that taunts, having a 0-cost card with a demoralize on it is really cool, because it's going to make it harder for people to hurt the shield bearer, who is a tanking shielded monster, which is pretty cool. Or if you decide to play one of these other newer tanks, now you have an ability to lower the attack that is coming into them. So that's really, really, really a good add-in for this team. I think all of these 0-cost cards are going to be very, very effective on the teams. We already kind of went over the cards that kind of help this team. Obviously, the triage guy, he can just be plugged into a lot of teams if you don't have the triage on the other side, but this gives them the ability to have quite a bit of triage going on in the back row. The archers are great to go with the new summoner. I really think the +1 ranged will be a awesome summoner for this team. I'm definitely going to be looking to max out that one without a doubt, because Selena with the white team is pretty devastating. Now you'll be able to do similar teams in the future, and I really like the idea of running the double scatter shot in a few matches and see how that works out. Sorry, like I said, I haven't been able to play test this stuff, but we're going to go ahead and end it there. I hope this was a little bit helpful going over the life team for you, and we'll be doing the earth team next. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.